Alright, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? How is it going? I am Is There No One Else, and the video I'm bringing you today, I wanted to talk about the Stamina Necromancer and potential balance changes that I see with the class and things that, in my opinion, need to be adjusted to bring the class back in line. As a lot of you guys know, anybody that PvPs right now, everybody thinks that Stamina Necromancer is the strongest, and I think there's a few things that we can identify that will adjust the class without gutting it. And I like doing these videos because I like having these sorts of discussions, because hopefully these discussions lead to good criticism of the class on the forums, and can potentially bring about good balance changes without completely making the class a shell of its former self, the way Nightblade has gone through it, the way Dragon Knight has gone through it, and all those other sorts of things. So that's why we're doing this video. So I'm going to go through the passives, I'm going to go through all the little things that make this class really good passively, and then I'm going to discuss the skills that I think need to be identified. So I will provide a timestamp for the different things that I discuss. We'll do passives, and then we'll do skills. But yeah, this video might be a little long. We'll see how it goes. But I am on the PTS. I got a brand new character. He's looking quite dapper in his underwear. But I wanted to just highlight, all the things that provide it. But this is, not going to be new to anybody. But the new classes, Warden and Necromancer, have some of the best passives in the game. And I'm not talking about like these passives in general, like the Bone Tyrant passives, Gravelord passives, Living Death. We're not going to go through all those individual ones because honestly they're just nice and they're unique. But where Necromancer stands apart is its passives that you get on each ability. And so each of these skills have its own unique thing. Every third cast of Flame Skull is 20% increased damage. While slotted, casting any Necromancer ability while you are in combat will count towards the third cast. And so you have these unique things. You have blastbones, which we will talk about in a little bit here, but this is major defile, and it's a ton of damage. You have Boneyard, which is major fracture, and then also has a powerful synergy. You look at Skeletal Mage, and it deals all this damage, and its next attack was 2% more damage than the previous attack. And if we go down the line, we'll look at like Bone Armor. So you have Beckoning Armor that pulls enemies in. So this is your major buff, and it just pulls enemies in, and it can count towards a stun, and it creates a corpse. And then you have Summoner's Armor, which also gives this to you, and it reduces the cost of your abilities. You have Deaden Pain, which, while slotted, your damage taken is reduced by 3%. So this gives you major protection when you activate it, but you also get 3% damage reduction while just having it on your bar. So it's very powerful. This is the ulti-gen one. It's still just a 3% passive as well. We have Bone Totem. You and your allies get minor protection. And you just look at all these, and these are all pretty damn cool. And you start to just see these little changes. And so we'll talk about Mortal Coil in a little bit, but this one restores stamina. It gives you a heal, and it's free, and it increases your healing done. And so when you look at all these individual skills, it's like, oh yeah, but else, it's only 3%. The original 4 classes don't have anything like this. And so when I was looking at it, I was like, these little 3% add up. 3% more healing done, 3% less damage taken. All these little changes attached to these abilities are lumped in to make Necromancer very powerful. And honestly, I like them. I think this should exist. And I think we can look at this and we can go, yeah, these passives are making Necromancer strong, around the edges. They're giving Necromancer passives and Warden passives, because Warden passives are similar, and like some in how the abilities work are very in tune to make the class more powerful. It amplifies builds in a unique way. And a lot of that got taken away from classes like Nightblade, as an example. You used to get Minor Berserk attached to your Spectral Bow. You used to get Major Fracture attached to your Surprise Attack. Fear used to provide Minor Maim, and it also snared. It doesn't do that anymore. Fear is just a CC. There's no attachment to it. Surprise Attack now reduces armor. Spectral Bow gives you a small heal, but you don't get these little increased edges. And I'm just talking about Nightblade because those are the most recent changes. But you could go across any of the original 4 classes, and they're not like this, And so I was looking at it, and when I was doing this video, I remembered it was about 6 months ago, they talked about how they were going to look at the underused classes. You know, they're going to look at classes that don't have their own power fantasy, and they're going to evaluate them. And so, in my opinion, I would want to wait to adjust Necromancer passives until after they come out with their, you know, Stam Sork changes, their Stam DK changes. You know, they introduced like Poop Rock, as I like to call it. They introduced the daggers for Stam Sork, and they said, you know, we're going to introduce more passives. Stam Sork is missing like 1.5 of their tree is not useful for Stam Sork right now. And so I think I'm just going to say from my point of view, until I see what those passive changes are, I wouldn't adjust anything on Necromancer. You know, let's just identify that these are stronger, but I think in quarter 2 or quarter 3, they are going to be improving those. And if they do improve these classes and give them these little edges that they give Necromancer and stuff, it may not be as overpowered as it currently is. And so that's why I'm going to say wait and see. But if there's nothing coming down the pipeline and they're not actually, you know, providing these little 3% edges or these little beneficial things, these Necromancer skills and passives do need to be adjusted, because you're just getting stuff with all of these abilities. That's awesome, by the way, but these things are not provided on other classes. So I personally believe that classes do need to be more powerful. More classes need to be like Necromancer. And I'm not saying overtuned and overperforming. I'm saying having unique skills, passives, bonuses attached to each skill so that you can build more uniquely. And so that's what I wanted to talk to about the passives. But when you look at those and you see that on Necromancer, you're like, dude, why doesn't my Stamina Nightblade have that? Why doesn't my Magicka Nightblade have that? Why doesn't my Magicka Sork have that? Why doesn't my Stam Sork have that? You know what I mean? Like, that's where the biggest disparity comes in. But that's not it. That's not the only thing. We got to talk about the elephant in the room, which is the most powerful skills in the game. It's blastbones. You know, blastbones is so strong right now. And I talked about it when it first came out. You know, the only thing that was holding Stamina Necromancer back from being the most powerful class in the game was the mapping on blastbones. You know, blastbones wasn't landing very consistently against a lot of players. When it did land, it was ridiculous. And that was the only thing holding it back. It was still a good class. I've been playing it since it came out on the PTS. I've been playing Stamina Necromancer, never ran a bash build. I've always been just running the normal Necromancer, and, you know, it's always felt strong to me when blastbones landed. And I even said in some of my original videos, if they ever fix this, you're going to have to adjust blastbones. Well, they fixed it, and I think blastbones needs an adjustment. And some people are going to compare it to Subterranean Assault, which is, you know, a justifiable comparison. They kind of function in the same way. But blastbones, you don't have to look at somebody. And so, as an example, let's see if I can find an ad here. You know, with Sub-Assault, I have to point at somebody, and I have to land it. With this, I can summon this, and I can turn around. And it's going to hit the person that I summoned on it. I summoned it to. And so that's where blastbones is a little bit different. And because it's easier to land than Sub-Assault, I think you should get a damage reduction for that reason. And honestly, when you compare blastbones to like onslaught, my blastbones has a higher tooltip than my onslaught does. And so it lands consistently. It provides major defile. So what I would do is I would reduce the damage on blastbones. You know, if you want to try and keep my major defile and give it its own unique feel, you definitely have to reduce the damage by a lot. If you want to reduce the major defile to minor defile, you know, then maybe you only reduce the damage by a little bit. There's a few things you need to do, but blastbones needs to be looked at, in my opinion. And the other thing, in my opinion, that needs to be adjusted is Mortal Coil. Mortal Coil is fantastic. They reworked it. This used to be a not so good skill. Now it works very well. The problem with Mortal Coil, in my opinion, is, you know, multiple. I mean, it's a fantastic heal. It's very tough to kill a Necromancer while they have this up, and it's free. This ability is free. And so when you look at it, you know, you summon we'll wait for our armor to go down, but you know, it's the tether on the ground for those of you guys that haven't seen it. But it's a very powerful free ability. It provides a lot of healing. It also restores stamina over 12 seconds, and it also increases your healing done while it's slotted. So it's a very, very powerful skill. There's nothing really like Mortal Coil in the game, and the fact that it's free is what is the biggest issue in my opinion. So you can go after this a few different ways. You know, you can make it cost something. You can make it cost magicka. You know, I know, and this is a Stamina Necromancer discussion. You know, Mortal Coil on... I don't know. I don't want to dip too much into Magicka Necromancer versus Stamina Necromancer because Magicka Necromancer needs help. And so I don't want to nerf an ability that Magicka Necromancer doesn't really abuse in the same way. But I do think Mortal Coil needs an adjustment. I do think Mortal Coil is just a little too powerful for what... a little too powerful is an exaggeration. It is extremely powerful. It's an extremely powerful skill. It's easy to cast. You know, I don't even have to look at it anymore. I can just summon, like I'm pointed over here, and it automatically pulls the corpse. It's free. Like, I'm just going to keep going. It's free. So every time I drop a corpse, I can just summon another one. And look, I got another tether on me. And I don't have to drain any resources to get it. I get stamina return, and I get really good healing. So you could look at the heal over time. You could look at the cost. You could look at the stamina return. But those two skills, in my opinion, need an adjustment. And so... that would be it. You know, for me, that would be it. And I know some people are like, you know, well, what about the Mender? You know, what about the 10% damage mitigation you get with the Mender? Well, I think classes should be powerful. I do. I think all classes should be as powerful as Necromancer, and that's where I'm coming from. I want to get back to a high burst meta, and Necromancer has high burst. Stamina Warden has high burst. I want every class to have higher damage. And so... I don't, just because some classes have it, doesn't mean I want to bring them down to classes that don't. I want to bring the classes that don't up to this level. And so we can identify that Necromancer has tremendous burst, and they're tanky, and they're unique. But we can also provide uniqueness to other classes. And so that's where I'm coming from on this. Like, I can acknowledge, and I have on my class ranking videos, that Necromancer is A tier, you know, or S tier. Sorry, it's S tier in small scale, solo, and group play PvP. You know, it's just an amazing class. And now that blastbones lands regularly, I think it, you know, like all of you, it's a step above. It's the best class in the game right now. But those little adjustments, I think, would be enough. You know, reducing the damage on blastbones, making Mortal Coil do not as much. You know, you'll still have tanky Necromancers, and that's fine. You know, in my opinion, you know, their tankiness is, you know, part of their thing, just like Stam DK has healing, Nightblades have cloak and shadow image. Like, they have their unique survival capabilities, and being thick as fuck is what a Necromancer is. And so I think you could look at a few other things, but I would make scalpel-like incisions to the class to just round out the edges instead of just going in there and gutting everything and all of a sudden making the class a shell of itself. You know, we're 5 years, almost 6 years into this game. We need to start looking at classes and making them powerful again, and not taking away literally everything that makes them unique. That's why all of a sudden you don't have reflected wings anymore. You know, that's why you don't have surprise attack on major fracture on surprise attack. That's why you don't have minor berserk on spectral bow. That's why, you know, all these things are taken away, and the class doesn't feel cool anymore. You know, I'm kind of taking away some of Joy Division's post that I linked a couple weeks ago, but Stamina Necromancer and Stamina Warden are unique, and they're cool. The other classes need to be unique and cool. So that's my opinion, but we can acknowledge that this class is extremely powerful right now. We're seeing a lot of Stamina Necromancers in open world PvP for a reason. Those are the adjustments I would make. Now, as is always the case with these videos, guys, I like to open, you know, up, like I like to have discussions with you guys, so we could talk about what you think makes Necromancer powerful, how you would kind of tweak them. But yeah, or we could just talk about how sexy this Orc Necromancer is. I mean, look at that, those underwear, you know, like, I would say that he's got a swimmer's body, but, you know, those teeth are just going to drag in the water, so I don't think that would be very effective. But we could talk about that in the comment section. Like I said, I like where Necromancer's damage is at. I want to see Stam Sork's damage up higher. I want to see Mag Sork's damage higher, Stam Nightblade, Magic Nightblade. I want their damage brought up, because people fight Necros and they're like, oh, they're so tanky and they do so much damage. Well, you wouldn't be so upset about their tankiness if you could do damage too. You know, that's how I look at it. So let me know what you guys think. Thank you for watching, guys. Have a nice day.